how do you actually master the American intonation in your daily life? Let's get right into those secrets. Number 1, know the rules. It's important to familiarize yourself with what rising intonation not only sounds like, but what it feels like when you're doing it yourself. Feeling the difference between going up and down, and using a wave type of intonation where you're really showing enthusiasm. Right, high and low. Those are all really important skills to practice. And knowing what to do when you come across a list or tag questions and when to break the rules will help you in a big way, because now once you know this, you can start to hear it in other native English speakers. It starts to become an entirely new world of English learning. It's its own special thing. If you don't know what the rules are, go to my previous videos in this playlist. We'll go through literally everything. But of course, everything comes down to actually using what you've learned. So tip number 2 is to practice what I call intonation exaggeration. And this is for gaining comfort with intonation rules. So over-exaggerate your intonation practice until you really feel like you totally get exactly what to do with your voice. And if you're not a singer, which is kind of like most people, this will be a little bit more effortful. But exaggerating is what helps your brain to process those highs and lows. It helps you to become a bit more comfortable and just going a little higher than normal, maybe a little lower than normal at the end. You don't necessarily need to exaggerate when talking to other people until you feel like you've made it your own. Number 3, most people just listen to English speakers and they use the mirroring technique, meaning they repeat what they hear. Repeating is great, but if you don't repeat with a really clear intention, then you don't get to reap all of the benefits of that whole technique. Sometimes I tell my clients to literally just focus on the music. Focus on the highs and the lows and the singing. If you focus on that one thing, it really brings out the information that you're looking for. So my recommendation is that if you're working on English and pronunciation and sounding a little more clear, focus on this goal very separately in a way until you feel really confident with it. And you feel like you can really go high and low and use your variation in more of a natural way. And once you feel a bit more comfortable with that, then we would implement more intonation practice with pronunciation. Number 4 is record yourself, but I want you to do something in a slightly different way. Record yourself reading a simple sentence or a simple reading passage. First, read it typically in a regular way, and then read each phrase with the exaggerated intonation. Compare the two. Decide for yourself what you like more. Do you sound like you have a lot of energy? Are you coming across very clear? Do you have confidence in your speech? Does the intonation reflect that? Then, after you've done that activity, try to do a medium exaggeration. So meaning going closer to your typical, likely more flat intonation, but with a little pizzazz. So instead of going super high and super low, now try the same thing, record yourself using like a 5 out of 10 in terms of exaggeration. That's going to be more closely matching what you would typically use in a conversation when you're working on intonation. So again, we're moving away from exaggeration, but moving more towards a really usable skill that you can see yourself using in daily interactions. Because in the end, you need to love how you sound. That's the goal. Number 6. Search out dialogues. It could be a movie script, it could be a presentation, summary, anything where someone is just speaking freely. What you'll do is look at the script before the speaker speaks, pause the video, and then ask yourself which word is the most important word. Find that word and really say it in a higher and lower pitch. And then ask yourself, am I going to use an upward intonation or a downward intonation? Then once you've tried it yourself, listen to the speaker and what they actually do. Compare yourselves. See if your intonation matched what you end up hearing. And decide for yourself which you like better. It might be you. And how cool would that be? It's a really, really great way to improve your intonation. Tip number 7 is to make use of technology. It could be as simple as recording yourself in a free recording app on your phone or a free program like Audacity. Those programs are amazing because they can show you that high loud element when it goes high. You'll see those waveforms much higher and that's how you know you're stressing. You can also use a program like Pratt, and one of my personal favorites is an app called Nail the Pitch. And this is really great because it shows you the waveform and you can physically see how high and low you went. You can even test yourself and beat your scores of going even higher and even lower than before. And it's a free app, so you don't even have to pay for it. Your intonation patterns will be really clear to you, and you'll see if you're doing a lot of flat intonation or if you're remembering to go a bit higher every once in a while and lower at the end. And one other really amazing benefit that I think is super awesome for anyone who's learning English as a second language and is trying to improve their fluency and rhythm and linking, and looking at whether the line is getting cut off every once in a while. If you notice your voice goes on and off and on and off and on and off, and you're seeing more dots than lines, then you know you're not linking, because that's more of a choppy way of speaking. Hi, how are you? Versus hi, how are you? The linking will show as a line rather than on-off dots. So if that's another goal of yours, I think this technology is fantastic to help you up your skills. If you see that flat line, then you know you've stopped all voicing. And the goal for linking, if you're trying one of those programs out, you really want to see those up-down waveforms and no flat line. Flat line is silence. Essentially, just put the program on in the background while you're reading aloud, while you're practicing, or talking on the phone. It's just a really good strategy to support your learning. So if any of these tips have been in any way helpful for you, click that little thumbs up mitten hand guy. Let me know that you enjoyed this content and you learned something. And please, in the comments below, just let me know, because when you do that, it tells YouTube, hey, this wasn't completely useless. Maybe I'll show it to more people. And if you do that, from my heart, thank you. And number 8 is to pay attention to the people you're speaking to. Really start to notice what kind of energy you're hearing from your speakers. When talking to other people, listen to the energy they're putting into their speech. How much high and low pitch variation are you hearing? Do you feel like that person's showing a lot of enthusiasm and energy and interest? And do you hear that in the music? Or do you hear a lot of flat intonation? And is there a lot of energy there? And then ask yourself, what is it that I want to convey? And match accordingly. In general, we all typically like to match the energy of the people we're talking to. We want to match the energy of the situation. If we're talking about a kind of sad topic, we don't want to show a crazy amount of intonation and a lot of energy, because it doesn't really match the situation. And similarly, our listener. We really want to match as closely as we can to our listener as well. So that's how we connect with each other, but ultimately paying attention to the people around you and listening for what you love in other people's speech and in their music and intonation, and using those skills for yourself. And if you're one of many, many people who struggle with knowing which words to stress in a sentence, or knowing which syllables to really exaggerate versus others, and you just not quite familiar with the rules, then stick around. Definitely subscribe, because I'm going to be touching on stress in English. And once that video playlist is ready for you, I'll put it here. But in the meantime, I have something pretty awesome there now anyway. So click that now, and I'll see you later.